Three, two. Hey everybody, it's Nathan Canilao here with Christian Babcock of the Bay Area News Group. We are here without Darren, who is on vacation. So it'll be the two of us today, but nonetheless, we are ready to talk some high school football, ready to talk some picks. Christian, you went to two games last Saturday, or Saturday and Thursday, right? You got Friday off. Talking about those games. What was your biggest takeaway from a pretty, packed weekend of football?
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Good to be here, as always. We miss you, Darren. Hope you're having a good time up in Tahoe. But, it was a great weekend of football. A little non-traditional for me. I think sounded like the Indigenous Peoples holiday may have caused some oddness in the schedule. But I made it up to Fremont for the first time to watch Irvington and Washington square off. And I hope, if you haven't read my recap, you should, because that was an insane game. I mean, Irvington basically had to win the game twice. There were some miscues kind of down the stretch that let Washington back in the game, some stuff I've never seen before. So check that out. But, that was a great game. And then going down to Morgan Hill for the first time also for Live Oak and Santa Teresa, another phenomenal game. So many points. Great festivities at halftime. They had a big halftime show with a bunch of fireworks, which apparently is traditional. But I did not know about that. So very cool. Very good fireworks show, too. I would say competitive with some of the professional shows I've seen. So, yeah, really good weekend of football. And looking forward to another good week this week. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. It is still this year, though. So.
Oh, yeah. I was at Campolindo and Monte Vista. Watched Campo come back from a 7-point deficit at halftime to beat Monte Vista on the road in front of a rowdy crowd. And they'll have a big game against Acalanes at Acalanes this week. Both teams go in there undefeated at 6-0. I'm excited for that game, Christian. I don't know about you, but that seems like a game of the year candidate. I feel like both teams are on this collision course. I wrote about it in our Monday Morning Lights. Campolindo is very ready for that game. I'm sure Acalanes is as well. This could basically be the DAL clincher here. I mean, if we're looking at the favorites, it's Campo and Aca for sure. And I know Clayton Valley's not far behind, but yeah, this is a big game. I'm expecting fireworks. Christian, do you have any thoughts on Campo Aca this weekend?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it should be a phenomenal game. If I weren't tied up here in the South Bay, I'd love to go over and watch it. But yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I did not expect at the start of this season to see these two teams both undefeated heading into this game, and it's always a great rivalry. I think, Campo had a really good test last week against Monte Vista. They were able to pass that. That was probably, a good barometer for where they're at, possibly their toughest test so far. And Acalanes has really been tested. I mean, they took it to Midi early on. They had a big comeback win against St. Ignatius. So I think this should be a phenomenal game. I think both these teams are they both top 5? I know they're both close.
We got Aca at 4, and in today the ranking that just came out today, Campolindo moved up to 9. So they're right there. So
we're getting there, 2 top 10 teams. And yeah, it should be phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing, I believe we'll have Evan Webeck there covering for us. So looking forward to seeing what happens. Should be a great game.
And before we get to our picks, I did want to ask you, Christian, being the South Bay guy, I was very impressed by St. Francis coming back and beating Mini. I was not expecting that. It looked like they were. 6 minutes left. I think they're down 6, if I remember correctly from reading Evan's story. But I mean, what a win for St. Francis! I think that's going to really boost. These last 2 wins have really boosted them, given them some confidence. They're 2-1 in league play right now with their only loss to Reardon. They have a big test against Serra. What chance do you give the Lancers going to Serra on a Saturday afternoon to get another league win under their belt?
Yeah, I give them a chance. I don't know how much. I mean, they're under Greg Calcagno, that team's always going to compete. And, we've seen this year, they're kind of, making, I don't want to say making something out of nothing, but compared to what they had last year on offense, they really had to try some different things. And I think they're starting to find the formula. I mean, what they did against Reardon was about as impressive of a loss as we've seen against them, except for maybe what Pitt did. And, we all know what Pitt is. We got them at number 3 right now in our rankings. So I think they're on the come up. I was talking to Darren, that loss to McClymonds is getting a little more puzzling, but I think you're starting to see a young team finding its footing, and I'm not sure they're ready to go toe-to-toe with Serra this year, especially this version of Serra. It seems like it's found a quarterback, but I think they're getting better. And I think they're building toward next year, but I think they're going to make some noise this year, even if they don't win the league title.
I agree. I think St. Francis, I think early in the year there was some doubt, but they did play one of the toughest schedules. They played Cathedral. Obviously, McClymonds is still a good program. De La Salle, Reardon, obviously. I think this team is going to be okay. I think we'll at the end of the season we'll look back and say that schedule hardened them. I will say real quickly, McClymonds. I will shout out the OAL. They put on their first OAL Classic on Saturday at Laney College. It was a great turnout. Over 1,000 people came. And I did have a story out today about Mac and how former NFL cornerback Marcus Peters is on the sideline helping out with that defense. So if you can imagine how boisterous, how loud he was playing for the Ravens, the Rams, the Chiefs, and the Raiders, you can only imagine what he's like as a defensive coordinator. So now we'll get to the picks. We have 15 games for you. We'll start, Christian, we'll start here Thursday. We have Washington Fremont at 3-2, going to, they're going to be at TAC Fidena Stadium, which is kind of like their default home at this point. They're going to play Kennedy Fremont, who's 5-1. Who do you have in this game?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I did a little Monday Morning Lights. If y'all haven't read about it, it's a weird quirk they have in Fremont. All the football teams share the same home field, and it's on Washington's campus. So they're only playing one true road game, each year. So technically this game is supposed to be at Kennedy, but it's actually at Washington, much like it was when they played against Irvington, and Irvington was the designated home team. So with all that being said, I was very impressed with some of the things Washington did last week against Irvington. I think Irvington's, a good competitive team, definitely a contender in that WACC Mission division. And I like Washington in this. Joseph Guerra had a huge game for Washington last week, really went off on both sides of the ball, really fast, dynamic. They had a hard time getting him down, Irvington. Sometimes they just push him out of bounds. They couldn't seem to get him on the ground. So I'm going to go with Washington in this one.
Yeah, I'm also taking Washington. I think they'll bounce back. I like Washington as a team. I like their quarterback. I think they're a solid program. Obviously, Irvington is playing really well right now, so I don't think that loss is really indicative of who they really are. But I'll take Washington. We have Glenn Reeves taking Kennedy, and so is our colleague Darren Sabedra taking Kennedy Fremont. So a little split this week with both of the elder statesmen taking the Kennedy JFK out there in Fremont. Next game.
That is fascinating to me because Darren said just last week he wouldn't pick against his daughter's alma mater in Washington. So I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, hey, I'm just saying, he had a good week. I think he's feeling it. I think he's feeling an upset. So next game, we got San Mateo at 4-2. They're going to be taking on TKA, who's at 5-1. I think this is going to be very close. I'll go first on this one. I'm saying TKA. I really think TKA is one of the better teams in the South Bay. I really like what they've done. Their only loss to Sacred Heart Prep, who, if I remember correctly, they are in a division above in the PAL, right?
I believe, yes. Sacred Heart Prep is in the Bay Division, and TKA is in the De Anza Division, which is also considered an A League, but the Bay is kind of considered more of an A+. It's a little bit higher. I remember looking at the CCS league calculations, and the De Anza is definitely up there. But yeah, there is considered to be a small gap between the two leagues. Yeah,
I think TKA they have so much athleticism for their team. And I know it's a smaller team, but I think when you do have a bunch of athletes on the field, you're always going to be in it. I think San Mateo is a good program, but I think TKA is going to take this one. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely going to lean with TKA. Been very impressed with them. Like you said, they lost to SHP. I actually picked them in that game, and they had a lead, I think, in the fourth quarter. So they kind of let me down. So Dante, come on, man. But no, I think they're a really good team. What they did against Burlingame last week, I know opened a lot of eyes. I had one coach, I was texting for results on Thursday night, and he asked what the score was, and I told him, he's like, whoa. So I think 45-7, I think it was, something like that. So that's definitely an eye-opener, and I agree. They have a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism, and I think they're going to get this one done.
Our Glenn Reeves has TKA. And Darren Sabedra has TKA. So a clean sweep out there for TKA. Next game we have Branham at 4-2, going at Christopher, who is also 4-2. I think this is going to be a close game. What do you got, Christian?
Yeah, I think this game, we were talking last week about the B-Val Mount Hamilton and how competitive it would be. I think this game for me is kind of a bit of a referendum on Branham. I think Lincoln's pretty good. I think that, explains more of what happened last week against Branham. But Christopher had a nice win against Lee. They had to come back and win it late. I think that's a team kind of like St. Francis, not to make a direct comparison, but they're kind of growing up week by week. They have a new quarterback in Dylan Robinson, who's a sophomore, brother of Jackson. And Branham kind of has a new quarterback in sophomore Andrew Ho, but he played a lot last year. And I like Branham. I think this is a good bounce back spot for them, but it's going to be tricky for them, especially going down to Gilroy. It's not a terribly long trip from South San Jose where they're at, but it's going to be tricky. But I am still going to lean with the Bruins in this one.
Wow, I am also going Branham. I think Branham is a good team. I think they're a good program. They're the type of team, in my opinion, that just they're not going to lose multiple games in a row. So I'm going to take Branham as well. Glenn Reeves has Christopher, and Darren has Christopher. So we have a split at it over there. So we have another split for us, Christian. Going to Friday, we have Friday's games. We're opening with James Logan at 4-2, undefeated in WACC Foothill Division play. They're going to go at Tennyson, who's 3-3, still looking for their first league win. I'm going Logan. I think Logan is interesting. I think they're one of the better teams. It's one of the more underrated teams. I was a little weary on them because they have a first-year head coach and Emmanuel Pride, but they've, to me, proven that they're still Logan. They were really in close games, even in their losses. So I'm going to take Logan here. Who do you have, Richard?
Yeah, I know. I think we talked about a little earlier in the year, Tennyson had some good wins in the non-league. And Logan, I agree, kind of just sneaking under the radar. I mean, just looking at where they're at, it looks like, off to a solid start, a good year. And I think they're in a good spot here. I think they're in a good spot to win this game. I think they're in a good spot to contend. And I know we were talking a little bit about might be a collision course with Logan and O'Dowd coming. So, I think they're going to just kind of – excuse me. I don't know where that came from. I think they're just going to keep kind of rolling along, and we'll see where it leads for them.
Yeah. This is I think we're on the like as you said, the collision course. I think we're going to see O'Dowd and Logan very, very soon here. I'm very excited for that game. But we have Darren Sabedra taking Logan. I'm taking Logan. Christian, you're taking Logan, and Glenn Reeves is taking Logan as well. So a clean sweep here for James Logan. Next game on the list, we have 4-2 Half Moon Bay playing the undefeated Woodside, Julian Edelman's Woodside, at 6-0. I think this is a very interesting matchup, but I'm curious to see what you think, Kristen.
Yeah, that's also Carl Babcock's Woodside. Don't sleep on my dad. But they won the Babcock Bowl earlier this year when they played Westmont, my alma mater, and they haven't stopped winning. They're pretty much destroying everyone they play. So I remember talking to Justin Andrews after they played Mountain View, and he seemed very confident, which I understand. Not even cocky, just he knows what this team has. I mean, this team's really talented. They run a lot of very confusing plays for the observer and for the defense trying to find the ball. If you haven't read Dave Kiefer's story, I touched on this too in mine, but they play two different quarterbacks. They'll snap the ball to like 5 or 6 different people. So Woodside's got it rolling. I at this point, I would expect them to win out, and I'm very curious to see where they end up in the playoffs. I think they could probably go as high as D2. So we'll see. I think they're poised for a great year. I think they're going to keep it rolling this week.
Yeah, Woodside, shout out to Woodside for making the rankings, the 25th spot in our rankings. Woodside got that. So congratulations to them. I'm also taking Woodside. I think they, like you said, I think they have this great momentum going, and I fully expect them to win. Darren Sabedra has Woodside, and Glenn Reeves has Half Moon Bay. So he's on an island there. We'll see how that plays out. Next game on the list, we have a Bay Valley Athletic League matchup, big one here. Pittsburgh at 5-1 is going to Liberty at 5-1. Two of I think they're both ranked. Pittsburgh is number 3 in our rankings, I believe. Liberty is a top 15 team. So a big, this is usually the most competitive game Pittsburgh has on the schedule every year. I'll go first. I am taking Pittsburgh. I think they're winning comfortably. I think they're just playing on another level. Christian, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Pittsburgh. We've discussed this a few times among ourselves. I think we talked about it a little on the show. I've been impressed with what Liberty has done to bounce back since, the early season, and especially that loss to Los Gatos was really kind of, wow. And, you didn't expect it maybe to be that lopsided, especially with Los Gatos having to travel as far as they did and with all the traffic and all that. But Los Gatos is a really good team, but I think Liberty's showing they're a pretty good team too. But Pittsburgh's just different. I mean, the size they have, the depth they have, the fact that they have that level of size and skill and speed, and they bring 70 guys to the table. And I talked to Charlie after they beat Los Gatos last week. I think their ceiling is they're not even close to it. We'll see if they get there. Sometimes teams aren't able to really figure it out and fully unlock their potential. But I see no reason why they wouldn't keep getting better. And I think they definitely have more than enough in the tank to take care of this game.
Yeah, on that point, Christian, I think it was really telling. You have a Pittsburgh team that had to replace like 90% of its starters last year, and they end up going the distance with Reardon, who, as we know, is a very, very, very good team. So I think that was a big. I mean, even in a loss, like you're a Hail Mary. I think it was a Hail Mary basically away from winning that game or tying that game. That's big, and I think they're just getting, like you said, they're getting better every week. So big ups to Pittsburgh. Glenn Reeves has Pittsburgh, and so does Darren Sabedra. I think this is going to. If you're Liberty, I'm sure you're just trying to get out of this with no injuries. Take the lessons from this. We'll see what happens, but. I think, at least they'll be at home. I think that'll help them a little bit, especially early on. Next game we got is Salesian. This is another big game out of the T-Cal Rock division. This is a gigantic game. Salesian at 6-0 is going to play at El Cerrito at 4-2. Salesian's on a heater. I think they're one of the better teams right now. And this has been a game. Salesian historically has been a team that they're pretty dominant, and then they run into El Cerrito and it's a different story. I think it's different this year, Christian. I think Salesian gets this one. I'm feeling Salesian. I think they have a good team. Chad Nightingale is a solid coach. I know El Cerrito has been going toe-to-toe with SRV, and they had they played Oakland Tech close, who I think is a solid team. But I'm taking Salesian in this one. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean Salesian too. El Cerrito has had a nice bounce back from what happened last year, and I think this game will be very competitive and very close. But I agree. I've been very impressed with what Salesian did, and I know they have some strong seniors, a good group, and I think this is the year. I think they're going to take care of it and win this one.
Yeah, and we got Glenn Reeves taking Salesian, and Darren Sabedra is taking El Cerrito. So we'll see how this one plays out. I do not expect this to be any blowout either way. I think this is going to be a very, very close game. Both teams have athletes on both sides, so we'll see how that one plays out. Next game, we have Monte Vista at 4-2, coming off a loss to Campolindo. They're traveling to see probably the second best team in the Sac Joaquin section at Oak Ridge at 4-3. They're going to have to make that drive over to the Sacramento area. I got Oak Ridge. I don't know if I see a path here for Monte Vista. Oak Ridge played Folsom very close. And as you know, Christian, like that's pretty, if you can play them pretty close by halftime, that's good tip in your cap. I'm going Oak Ridge. I think they're just going to overpower them. Who do you have, Christian?
Yeah, well, I mean, if they played them close for a half, that's not quite what Serra did, but I think we all think Serra's a pretty good team. But I agree. Sort of my default lean is that these Sacramento area teams are pretty good. I mean, obviously it depends a lot on the team, but yeah, I think Oak Ridge is pretty good. I think this is going to be a tough test. And the fact that Monte Vista has to travel, I also wonder a little bit, about an emotional, physical letdown, especially after playing Campo. That was a really good test for them. And they acquitted themselves well, but, it can be tough to get that rollover effect week to week. I mean, maybe, they'll go out and play well. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, necessarily play well. But I think, Oak Ridge is in a good spot to get this one.
Yeah, I will say I'll shout out Henry Lasker. I mean, that guy, that running back, really shifty back for Monte Vista. That's their ultimate weapon. And, if he can get going, you never know. But I just think Oak Ridge is going to take that one. Next game, we got Livermore playing Redwood Christian at Emerald High School, in the new high school in Dublin, right there in East Dublin. I would really love to go to that game. I've driven by Emerald High School. I mean, beautiful school. It reminds me a lot of McDonald. I've driven by McDonald as well. So I'm taking Livermore. I don't think this is going to be particularly close. I think Livermore, again, one of those teams that's just hot right now. I know they lost to California a couple weeks ago, but they walk off a win against Dublin last week on a field goal, and I think this is a solid team. This is my favorite to win that EBAL Valley division. Glenn Reeves is taking Livermore, and so is Darren. Christian, do you think Redwood Christian has a chance in this game?
Do I think they have a chance? Yes, I do. Not much of one. I think the computer has Livermore at about a 98% chance to win, if I recall correctly. Do you got it down?
I do not have that down, but that sounds about right.
Let me do a quick check here. That's Granada. Oh, actually, excuse me. It has them at a greater than 99% chance to win, and it says they will win 48-0. So that sounds a little lopsided. Best of luck to Redwood Christian. They've had a great start to the season. They're playing this independent schedule, and I think this kind of shows, how there are levels to football, similarly to how, Livermore gave California a good fight, but I think they're just a little different levels, different tiers of the leagues and the divisions that these teams are in. But yeah. I really like what Livermore has done early on. I've been impressed with them, and I think they're poised to get a good win, a big win. And Redwood Christian, I mean, when you play an independent schedule, you're just at the mercy of, whoever you can get. And they've played some teams and been able to stack some wins, and good for them. But, like I said, Livermore is a little different, a little step up in competition. And I'm going to go with the Cowboys to lasso this one out there where they have the Livermore Stampede softball tournament. So,
yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. And we're going to move to next game is Lincoln San Jose, who's undefeated, coming off a great win against Branham, 6-0. They're playing Live Oak, who suffered their first loss last week. They're playing at Live Oak, so they're traveling to Morgan Hill. This is interesting. I'm looking at the computer, and they have Live Oak. We'll start with what they said. They think they have a 60% chance of winning with a final score prediction of 42-38. So obviously both teams scoring a bunch. I have Lincoln. I think there's something going on with Lincoln right now. I just really like their team, what they've been able to do. What do you have, Christian?
Yeah, I feel like this game, if you sort of combine this game and the Branham-Christopher game, these are two like Rorschach test games. Has Branham fallen off, or is Lincoln that good? Is Lincoln so good they can go down to Morgan Hill and beat Live Oak? I mean, I left very impressed with Live Oak when I went down to see them. Morgan Hill, obviously, they weren't able to get the win against Santa Teresa. Santa Teresa just has so much talent, especially for a South Bay team, the way they can spread you out, the number of receivers they have. Brian Caldwell is a phenomenal senior back for them, and Sal Guerrero has been a great quarterback. But Live Oak really impressed me. I mean, Adrian Leal, their quarterback, he threw a few balls, probably at least 50, 55, 60 yards. And Mike Gimo over there, he told me the best arm probably he's ever coached there. So I like Live Oak in this one. I think, being at home again, Lincoln's really got it cooking, but Adrian Leal, he can really push that ball down the field. And Gage Jones is a phenomenal running back. I put this in my story, but he was looking a little like Christian McCaffrey, the way he was slithering through some not huge holes and making stuff happen, and went over 200 yards for I don't know what time, but he came in averaging over 200 and he got close to 250. So I'm going to go with the Acorns in this one.
Yeah. So it'll be 3 for Live Oak, and I'll be on an island with Lincoln. So we'll see what Kyan Phillips could do. Next game on the list, we have Lee at 4-2. They're going to head to Santa Teresa, who's obviously coming off that big win. Christian, who do you got?
Yeah, this is the other half of the Rorschach test. I mean, Lee had a lead on Christopher, and they, maybe could have won that game. It sounds like, Christopher mounted a late comeback. I wasn't there, so I didn't really get to sense the dynamics, but this is a tough spot for Lee. I mean, like I said, Santa Teresa has so many skilled players, so many fast players, and I think they're just on a bit of a different level. I don't think, Lee can match up athlete for athlete, and it's just tough, like I said, facing a team like that in the South Bay. Generally you don't get the same accumulation of talent and just that level of skill. So especially with the Saints going back home, I'm going to roll with Santa Teresa.
Yeah, I'm same here. I think Santa Teresa, they're probably one of the, I think they're a great team. I just have so much respect for Steve Papp and what he's been able to do over there. And I think they take this one. I think it's not really going to be particularly close. That's kind of my hot take. I know Lee had a really tough outing last week, but I think Santa Teresa takes this one. Glenn Reeves has Santa Teresa. Darren Sabedra has Santa Teresa. And the computer has Santa Teresa a 96% chance of winning with a final score prediction of 46-19. So nearly 50 points scored in that game for Santa Teresa. Next game we have another big one in the East Bay. SRV, San Ramon Valley at 5-2. They're going to go to California down a couple of exits in San Ramon to play California. This one is a toss-up for me, Christian. I don't know about you. I thought I went really, back and forth, but I do think San Ramon Valley gets this one. I think they have I really like what they have, the young players they have, and I think the difference is going to be the offensive line. I mean, San Ramon Valley historically just had great offensive lines. I think that's going to be the difference in a game like this. I think they're going to control the clock. I think they're going to get a big road win. I'm taking SRV. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think kind of like we touched on with Santa Teresa and Lee. I mean, Lee's a nice program. Santa Teresa, a little different level. I could see Cal winning this game. I think, you mentioned the O-line and the size. I was very impressed with both of their lines of scrimmage. I know we talked a little bit about after that game how Jadis Lucky, who's obviously having a great year for Clayton Valley, but he had an incredible year for Cal last year, just eye-popping numbers, over 2,000 yards. And I think part of it, was that line that they have. But I think SRV is just a little different level. I haven't seen them in person. I've seen Cal, and I was very impressed. But SRV is just such a perennially strong program. I think the strength they have in the trenches. I will say, I think this is a year where Cal could win this game. Things are lining up for them. And I expect, a very close competitive game. Like you said, these schools are pretty close together. Should be a good crowd. Both schools showing up and showing out. But I think SRV, I'm just going to lean a little bit more with the Wolves and the experience, and they've been in a lot of these big games, and they've pretty much always acquitted themselves well. So I'm going with SRV.
We have Glenn Reeves taking SRV as well, and Darren is going California, so he's picking an upset here. I don't know if it's big upset, but it is upset in our rank. It would be an upset in our rankings. The computer has San Ramon winning 28-21. Gives SRV a 65% chance of winning that game. So close. I think it's going to be very close. I think I'm on that same line. I think it'll be about a touchdown between each game, whoever wins. Next game on the list, a game you'll be at, Christian. We have Los Gatos at Wilcox. Los Gatos at 3-3. Obviously, a little bit deceiving. They played some of the best teams in the state. Los Gatos has. They're going to travel to Wilcox, who, after a kind of a sluggish start, is kind of making their way back. I feel like we're talking about the old Wilcox again. I know it was a tough. You have a tough loss at Valley, and I think it was Mitty was the other loss, right? So, I think Wilcox is getting back to form. Who do you have, Christian?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Wilcox definitely, had some losses. Most notably, Braden Rosa was such a huge player for them. But yeah, like you said, I mean, they're not losing. To reference, I think Draymond Green once said, "We ain't losing to some bums," or I may have that attribution wrong. But yeah, they played some really good teams. I mean, Valley, has kind of fallen off a little as the WCal started. But Mitty, I remember seeing that result and being a little puzzled. But I think Mitty has proven they're a really good team. So I like Wilcox. I think they're having a bounce back. I was kind of shocked. The computer, I think, has Los Gatos with about a 98% chance to win. Thinks they're going to win 44-10. I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, the way Wilcox runs that, I think this will be closer, and this is just such an emotional game. I am going to lean Los Gatos a little bit. I think they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of skilled guys. They have maybe some skill on the outside that Wilcox doesn't have, but knowing Wilcox, and I know last year when they played Los Gatos, I don't know if they watched the show or they read the picks column that we put on the website, but one of their coaches was heckling me a little bit as I talked to Braden Rosa after that game. So I know the Chargers are going to come out with everything you got, but I think Los Gatos does ultimately get this one.
I agree. I think Los Gatos. I think it's going to be. I don't really agree with the computer on this one. I think Wilcox is going to run the ball and they're going to chew some clock and they're going to force Los Gatos to get stops on third and short. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. But I do think Los Gatos and their offense, they're going to figure it out. I got Los Gatos in this one. Glenn Reeves has Los Gatos and Darren Sabedra also has Los Gatos. Next game, last Friday game we have. This is we touched on this earlier in our little monologue here. Campolindo going to Acalanes, both teams undefeated. Campo at 6-0, Aca at 7-0. I don't know. I'll let you go first, Christian, and then we'll go and get into the computer and Glenn and Darren in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad, we touched on this. I think this game deserves a lot of shine. I mean, obviously it's a big rivalry, and I don't remember what the exact result was last year. I feel like this game, were you at this game last year? Or was
Joseph Dykes was at this game, but I do know Campolindo lost both. They lost the game at home, and they lost again at Las Lomas in the Division III championship.
Okay. Because maybe there was a different Acalanes game I'm thinking of that they had a lead and then lost it late.
I think that was 2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago.
All right. Well, anyway, this should be a phenomenal game. I mean, Acalanes, we talked about how much Midi has impressed us, and they took it to Midi at home. So they've had a great start to the year. They've beaten 2 WCAL teams. Campolindo's had a good start too, but I think Acalanes is in a good spot at home. I mean, this should be a fantastic rivalry game. I'm very glad, like I said, Evan Wiebeck will be there for us. But this should be a phenomenal game. I mean, this is one of the better games that we'll have this week. I think this will be maybe the DAL game of the year. And, this is a region, they have some pretty good teams, but it's not always that you get 2 teams this good, both undefeated this late in the year. It's lining up. I think it's going to be good. It should be a really good game, a classic. Both teams are really talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, I compared this, and we talked, I think, about this yesterday, Chris. This is almost Ohio. This type of rivalry is Ohio State, Michigan, where it's like it doesn't matter where these 2 teams are. You're going to get a game. Hardly ever going to get a blowout. And I think this game is. I mean, this is huge. Like you said, I think this is going to be a huge game. If you asked me a week ago, I think I would have said Acalanes is going to probably win this one by comfortably. I don't know about blowing Campolindo out, but I would have said comfortably 10, 14 points. But after watching Campo play Monte Vista, man, it is tempting to be the contrarian here and take Campolindo, but I'm going to take Acalanes. I think Acalanes, I just think they're an elite team. If you look at it, if they finish out the regular season 10-0, we're probably looking at them being a high Division I team in that NCS bracket. And I really like what they've been able to do under Coach Joel Isaac this year. So I'm taking Acalanes. Glenn Reeves is taking Acalanes. Darren Sabedra is taking Acalanes. And the computer is also taking Acalanes 28-21. 65% chance for Acalanes to win that game, according to the computer. Last game on the list. And we touched on this one as well. St. Francis traveling to Serra on a Saturday afternoon. Serra at 3-3, St. Francis at 2-4. It feels like Serra has a home game every week. I don't know about you, but it just feels like does this team ever play on the road?
They did last week, although I got that confused. I had to straighten that out. I put out a tweet that said it was at Serra, and it was not. It was at Sacred Heart Cathedral. But yeah, it does kind of seem, I don't know why, they play a lot of home games. I mean, where they're at in San Mateo, they don't have a ton of long trips that they have to take, except when they're going to go down to Southern California to play Bosco or go to Folsom to play them. So
yeah, and so I think this is going to be an interesting game. I'll start with Glenn and Darren. So Glenn has Serra, Darren has Serra. I think this is close. I do think Serra gets this one late. I just think the talent gap is just going to be a little too big for St. Francis in this one. I think they're coming off a great win, but I just do think Serra is. I think they're one of the better teams in our area. They're top 5 for a reason. Christian, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Serra too. I remember, I mentioned Folsom. The way they played Folsom, they were still, kind of finding a quarterback, and now they found William Orr, a freshman who seems to be doing some really good things. I haven't seen him in person, but Serra, watching them last year, it was a bit of a down year, but you always wonder, when they get that quarterback. Like I know they had Maui Smith a few years ago, and with the toughness and the size they have, and Patrick Walsh is always going to have them well coached and disciplined. Just the size and physicality they have, I think, is pretty hard to match for anyone except maybe Reardon or De La Salle in our area. I mean, they're just the bodies they can throw at people are, they're big and they're skilled and they're tough, physical, kind of like Patrick Walsh. I think he instills that in his program. He's a bit of a smaller guy, he had to have that hard-nosed mentality, and Serra looks really good. I mean, we've discussed this, I think, on the show, but it seems like they're kind of heading for a collision course with Reardon. So I think St. Francis will put up a fight. We know the Lancers have some big guys too in the trenches, but Serra, I think, another win, probably another win by few scores, comfortable win. I think Patrick Walsh has something cooking in San Mateo this year.
Yes, the computer has Serra big, 35-14 over St. Francis, giving Serra a 90% chance to win that game. I don't know if it'll be that big of a gap. I do think St. Francis will put up a fight. I do think it'll come down, end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter. I think it was when Serra takes it. But that is all the picks we got. I have a parting shot, but I will let Christian go. What is your parting shot, Christian?
Yeah, I'll just add on to something you said at the beginning of the show about your fantastic story on Marcus and Michael Peters, which everyone should read if you haven't already. And by the way, y'all subscribe. It's $1. We love you. We appreciate you. And it helps us, fund our coverage of your teams. It makes a huge difference. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed. Please bug 2 neighbors if you can. But I remember last year when St. Francis hosted McClymonds, and Marcus Peters was up in the booth for a while, and I think they couldn't get the headsets working. Then he went down on the field, and he brings the energy. It's fascinating to see the contrast between him and his father, Michael Peters. Michael Peters is just kind of the portrait of calm and equanimity in the face of, whatever chaos may be going on the field. And Marcus brings the fire. So I think they make a big tandem. Hot take here, go out on a limb a little bit. I know Michael stepped away, and Marcus, I know last year he was still, pursuing maybe signing with an NFL team, and I'm not sure he's closed that door, but I could see Marcus Peters being the coach of McClymonds one day before too long. Like I said, I don't know when that would happen. I'm not sure if that's what he wants for his life, but it's great to see them coaching together. I mean, I think in a lot of ways that's what high school football is about, and it's great to see the generations there at McClymonds.
Yeah, I agree. I'll touch that a little bit. I mean, if you want to see whether or not you think he'll, if he'll take over McClymonds, you should definitely subscribe and read the story. I touched on that a little bit at the end of that story, but yeah, I'll touch on that a little bit as well. I mean, I do think it's very funny, like you said. It's Mike Peters is just calm, cool, collected. Doesn't yell. Very next play mentality. We're gonna, he's keeping everybody on the sideline cool. I think Marcus is just some would say, maybe differences would clash or collide, but it's just like the perfect storm because you have Marcus, who is just, and brings so much energy to coach. I mean, it feels like he thinks he's playing. I mean, he's like kind of, I did remember one time when I was watching them play Tech over the weekend, he's kind of like sitting down like as a coach, but he's sitting down like he's a corner and he's kind of watching the game. And I'm like, wow, I think it's just natural for him. So I think that's awesome. Shout out to Marcus Peters and Michael Peters at McClymonds. We'll see how they do. They're going to be favored in every game in the OAL so far. And so I guess we'll their next challenge, barring any type of weird loss, would be in the NorCal, whatever NorCal game they'll get in the future. So we'll see how that goes. My last parting shot is I will be stepping away for about 4 weeks. I am having my second child here soon. We're due about a week. So, I will be making some picks. Don't worry about that. I will be sending those over, but I will be back the second week of section playoffs for the Open NCS title game. So that will be in a couple, about 4 weeks. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, congrats to you, Nathan. 2 kids. I don't know how you're going to do it, but God bless you. Good luck and congrats. I mean, that's great news for you. But it's interesting, you said you're going to be gone about a month. I was going to say with Mac, Rajon Duncan has been out for them pretty much all year with an injury. And it sounds like that's around when he might return. It's kind of a matter of how far they can advance. And if they can get him back, I mean, I know he just got an offer from Ohio State recently. He is a great talent for them. and he could really change things. So we'll see. Maybe Nathan will be back, father of two, and he'll be watching Rajon Duncan winning the Silver Bowl maybe, and see what Mac can do in the playoffs. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I'll touch on Rajon too. I mean, the thing with Mac is, as you watch them, they're all the, I know they're not deep, they don't have a big roster, but at all the key spots that you kind of need a player, a star, they have it. They have quarterback, right? They have a defensive tackle who's a beast. They have a running back who's very good, a wide receiver who's very, an elite wide receiver. I just think, Mac with the talent they have. I mean, I know we didn't pick them. We're probably not going to have a game to pick until the Silver Bowl, but there's a team that I think that is going to slowly but surely be there. And I don't think you want to see Mac with a healthy Rajon Duncan. I don't think if whatever team that is in the NorCal, I don't know if you want to see a Mac team. I know they don't have the depth, but that's a good team. So we'll see how that goes.
No, and that'll be, a motivated team. I mean, beating St. Francis without Rajon Duncan will be crazy motivated if he gets back on the field. And I mean, I know they don't have much depth, but they got, I think, about 25, this year, which for Mac is pretty good. And, like we've talked about, they're all good players and very talented. And like you said, they got guys in key spots. So I think they're set up well, especially if he can come back at the end of the year for the playoffs. Yeah,
well, we will see about Mac. Hopefully we'll see them soon. I know we'll probably get out to Silver Bowl that is probably the time where I'll be back. So that is it for our show. Again, subscribe, $1, like Christian said. Tell everybody. Like you said, tell the neighbor, tell the mailman, tell the waiter, wherever you go. Just tell everybody. Say subscribe to the Mercury News for the best high school content. We're coming up on hoop season soon too, so that we're rolling, Christian. I know we're in the thick of things. So we will see you guys next week, and I will see you guys with my NCS Open Division pick. We'll see how that goes in 4 weeks. But thank you everybody for listening, and we are out.